Hi there, folks. My name is Chris Waters, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to GameSpot.com's special preview of E3 2013. You're about to get a sneak peek at some of the biggest games that are going to be shown this year at the Electronic Entertainment Expo. That's right, E3 is not a new smartphone or a winning bingo number. It's an expo, a convention, an event when the video game industry gathers together to show off the latest and greatest games and hardware right here at the Los Angeles Convention Center. In just a few short days, these halls will be packed with people waiting eagerly to get their first look at the next big thing. And if you've been following the news lately, you know that means a new PlayStation from Sony and a new console from Microsoft. But before we get to the new systems, let's check out some games. GameSpot recently met with Harmonix, the creators of Rock Band, in order to get a look at what they've got in store for this year's show.
We're introducing the player to the world of Fantasia. In a lot of respects, it was an opportunity for Walt to do something very ambitious. And what he was trying to do at the time was, bring classical music and sort of, classic music to an audience through animation, to create a meaningful connection between animation and music. And he described it as this adventure of color, sound, and motion. What we found was that he'd developed Fantasia to be an evolving platform where, you have the film, and then every so often he'd release new content, and actually try to keep up with contemporary culture and contemporary technology. And that never came to pass, but that was one of the things that we really took to, and Chris was great. He gave us a lot of creative leash to sort of think about how we might adapt Fantasia to today, to today's technology, today's music, and the core game loop revolves around you going into these realms that Yen Sid introduces you to, discovering interactions, discovering magical energy, and actually discovering songs, discovering Bohemian Rhapsody, discovering Some Nights by Fun, playing those songs, transforming them, and then pulling energy back into these realms. And so as you pull energy from the music into the realms, they transform in all sorts of fantastic ways. So we're making Disney's Fantasia for Kinect on Xbox 360 for release in 2014.
Now from the classic Disney franchise to the newest members of the House of Mouse. Iron Man, Wolverine, the Hulk, and all your favorite Marvel superheroes are teaming up for a blocky, boisterous good time in LEGO Marvel Superheroes. Excelsior!
When we first started on LEGO Marvel Superheroes, we analysed what we wanted to create. Very quickly we decided we wanted all the characters. Every character within LEGO Marvel Superheroes is based on their comic book counterpart. And what we have to do is look at what is it about that character that makes them, so special. If it's Wolverine, for example, obviously he's known for his adamantium claws, his skeleton, he can regenerate, and so therefore we build that into his abilities, his animal instincts. And what makes Spider-Man cool? The fact that he can web swing wherever he wants. He can do anything a spider can. LEGO Marvel Superheroes is two-player co-op. The great thing about LEGO games is that you can drop in, drop out. You play with your kids, or your kids play with their friends. There's something special about sitting on a sofa together, and everyone loves two-player co-op.
Now, speaking of superheroes, Marvel won't be the only comic book creators represented at E3 this year. Warner Bros. Interactive is bringing a few games featuring characters from the world of DC Comics. The names may be familiar to you, but the settings, well, see for yourself.
We've always been a fan of DC, and in order to have it be a Scribblenauts game, it has to have a really big catalog of stuff. And if one fan picks up the game and he types in his most obscure favorite character, it has to be there. And if it's not, it's a disappointment. We tailored it so that it still looks like the DC characters. If you take a look at it, you'll see that Superman looks like Superman, Batman obviously looks like Batman, but they also look like they fit within the greater scheme of Scribblenauts as well. The big gameplay focus is on dynamic heroic feats. We want players to be able to go in, use their imagination to solve these bite-sized puzzles, and then get rewarded with new costumes, new levels to go to, and new powers that they can put on their custom creations in the Hero Creator. So you'll be able to create your own heroes and apply your own powers to them. And just like in previous Scribblenauts titles, which we allowed you to create your own objects, now you're going to be able to take your hero and you're going to be able to put laser vision on him, and you're going to give him Batman's face with Flash's legs and make him run really fast and throw boomerangs and put that in the game and share it with your friends.
So this is Infinite Crisis, and it's on PC. That's where the MOBA genre is really taken off right now. MOBA is basically a battle arena. That's what MOBA stands for. And you get 5 people on your team, I get 5 people on my team, and basically the goal is I'm going to destroy your base, you're going to destroy mine. And so it's all about having characters with different power sets and different appeal, and building out this sort of roster of characters that you can bring in. The maps themselves are really just sort of like the chessboard that you're going to play the game on. So for Infinite Crisis, we really wanted to take it a step further. If you see a big old card that you want to use and you have super strength at the time, pick the car up and I can throw it at you. But by the time you're at the end of a 20-25 minute match with 10 people, the map's not going to look anything like it did in the beginning. It's going to be sort of blown to pieces by the fact that these super beings are in there, fighting it up.
If you have kids, this next game may already be on your radar. The Skylanders games and toys have invaded living rooms across the world, and if they haven't made their way into your home yet, it may only be a matter of time before they do. Take a look at Skylanders Swap Force.
So in Skylanders Swap Force, we find a new hidden area of the Skylands called the Cloudbreak Islands. And what's special about the Cloudbreak Islands is there's a magical volcano there that erupts once every 100 years. The Swap Force Skylanders have a couple of new mechanics that require you or ask you to find good combinations. So each top half of a Swap Force character has a different way of fighting, whether it's a short-range punches like Night Shift, who's a vampire boxer who has punches and uppercuts that he could use for short range. And then the bottom half is more about how you move. There's 8 different types of Swap Force movement types that when you combine them together, you can create a character who moves faster, who can evade other enemies, or maybe move around back of enemies to surprise them. So each of those specific movement types on the bottom of a Swap Force character lets you access unique special gameplay within the game. The game is Skylanders Swap Force. It comes out this fall. It's on the Wii, the Nintendo Wii U, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the Nintendo 3DS.
And welcome back. I'm Chris Waters, and you're watching GameSpot.com's E3 2013 preview. From music-charged games to superhero-fueled adventures, we've seen some pretty cool stuff thus far. Now we're gonna change gears a bit, and it's partially so I can make some car puns, but mostly it's because there's some cool racing games speeding their way towards E3 this year. GameSpot reporters traveled to Sweden a few weeks ago to meet with the development team on the new Need for Speed.
For us, a Need for Speed game is kind of this mix of simulation and arcade. It's kind of not one end or the other, but we sit kind of somewhere in between the two. But it's the same as a lot of different things. Your experience of what you think is real and what actually is real is a very different thing. In terms of the experience we want players to have, first and foremost, it's a driving game. So we want the driving experience to be absolutely second to none. That you've got this variation in terms of these great kind of switchbacks where you can really throw the car left and right the way through to interstates where you can really open it up and see what these cars can really do, these performance vehicles can really do. We want players to be out and exploring the world and really exploring it in its fullest capacity. And to do that as well, I think you need to choke how often things are getting through to the player. Players, I think, feel rewarded when they've worked for something. And when they're taking a bit of time to kind of invest in something and make sure that they understand that, okay, if I want to get to this thing, it's not just going to be given to me on a plate, but I need to actually go and earn my stripes, earn that vehicle so I can spend the speed points on it, whatever it might be.
Now we're heading out to the track with Gran Turismo 6, the latest racer in the long-running PlayStation franchise.
With beautiful visuals and a handling model that's been refined over 15 years, few games can touch Gran Turismo's attention to detail. But where does the series go from here? For developer Polyphony Digital, it's all about refinement of past ideas. Those changes lie at the heart of Gran Turismo 6, the next installment of the franchise that, surprisingly, is making its way to PlayStation 3 rather than the upcoming PlayStation 4. It's Polyphony Digital president and professional racing driver Kazunori Yamauchi's eye for perfection that has been key to the franchise's roaring success.
Actually driving a racing car, you drive it with a lot of different sensors mounted on the car. And we're able to collect a lot of different data. How the ride height of the car changes when you're driving, how that changes in relation to the aerodynamic effects, and how the steering balance changes. And we made a lot of discoveries, in terms of data, racing on the track. And in addition, now I'm able to experience that in a real car and then in Gran Turismo. And it's just really, really interesting, the field that we're getting into.
With improved handling, 1,200 cars, and 71 track layouts across 33 locations, Gran Turismo 6 promises to be one of the most feature-packed and realistic racing simulators around.
We're into the final lap, and the finish line is in sight for all of these car-related puns, I promise. Take a look at this teaser for a next-gen driving game from Turn 10 Studios, Forza Motorsport 5. So far, we've been focusing on the exciting games of this year's Electronic Entertainment Expo. But for many, the real excitement lies with the two new gaming consoles from Microsoft and Sony. The new Xbox and the PlayStation 4 are going head-to-head to compete for your attention this year. So let's get a quick recap of what we know about the two systems thus far.
Later this year, Sony and Microsoft will be launching their next generation of consoles. The PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One are both significant upgrades to the hardware they are replacing, and it might surprise you to learn that both feature similar components under the hood. The two systems will use technology akin to what you would find in a modern high-end PC, which makes things a lot easier for game developers and, more importantly, means that your games will look great on either system. Like almost everything else in your life, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 have also been heavily influenced by social media. Each system will enable players to record their play sessions and share those videos with friends online. Sony plans to take things a step further by allowing players to broadcast their games live through a video streaming service called Ustream. So what exactly is it that sets these two consoles apart? Well, in Microsoft's Xbox One announcement, they made a big deal about how the system will integrate with your cable box, allowing you to seamlessly switch between games, live television, and DVR services. The Xbox One will also feature a new version of Kinect. Improvements to the motion tracking voice recognition device will make it more responsive to your movements, allow it to capture higher resolution video, and enable it to function in smaller spaces than its predecessor, which is good news for those of us with cozier living rooms. Sony's plans for the PlayStation 4 haven't been explained in as much detail, but speculation abounds as to how they might integrate Gaikai, a streaming service that uses cloud computing to power video games. We do know that Sony intends to deliver a very social experience, allowing your friends to watch you online while you play, to give you advice, or even to take over the controls if you need a helping hand. There's still a lot we don't know about these two new systems, but suffice to say there are some intriguing ideas in the works. If you're hungry for more details about the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, you can always head over to GameSpot.com for tons of in-depth coverage.
Now, I get it. Next generation consoles are exciting. I'm right there with you. But don't go unplugging your Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 just yet. There are plenty of exciting games coming out for both systems, one of the biggest of which is bound to be Destiny. Slated for both current and next generation platforms, this new game from the creators of the legendary Halo franchise is sure to have a big impact at this year's E3.
Well, it was a fantastic decade, more than a decade with Halo. We wave fond farewell to Halo. I mean, I think everybody at the studio, whether you've been there a long time or whether you're new, we love the Halo universe. Great place to play. But now we get to work on the game that we want to make. On Destiny, this great, taking what we believe is action, like the next evolution of what action and shooter games are going to be like. And we've set it within something we think is this really compelling, mythic science fiction world. You know, when you love science fiction as much as we do, and you love the solar system as much as we do, it means we get to tell this really great human tale where we can combine the pageantry, but the weapons and interesting look of the armor and this really wide range of player characters that you can have, and combine it with our love of space and put it all in a place that we know really well, which is our solar system. But we only know it well to a certain extent. There's enough of the familiar there so that we can throw a whole bunch of crazy stuff at you. And we think that that's really exciting. So what are we making? Like, what we're making is Bungie's next big action shooter. Destiny will be on both current gen and next gen consoles. Pretty exciting time.
There are more great games coming up, and for complete coverage of E3, join us on GameSpot.com starting Monday, June 10th. Sneaky, stealthy, kleptomaniac. Silent infiltration is the order of the day for this new entry in the Thief series. Eavesdrop on our interview with the creators of Thief.
It's a big challenge first to respect the franchise. Having right to put Thief sticker on the box, you must understand the DNA. We decided to keep the main character, Garrett, but we're going to bring our own flavor. The game is really in the kind of in-between medieval and industrial age. It's really not the golden age. Something is wrong in this universe, and this is what you have to find out, why it's like that, what's going on. The next gen is so powerful today that to create that type of universe is just amazing. It's all the details, the sound, the visual clue. You feel that you're in the street, or you are so close of the guy, you almost can feel the clothes and stuff like that. It gave us this capacity to bring you in our own universe. I think the timing is just perfect for that type of game, yeah.
GameSpot's preview of E3 2013 continues as we turn our sights to a franchise that's become a household name over the past few years, Call of Duty. Call of Duty Ghosts is slated to release this fall, and we recently talked to the folks at Infinity Ward about how this latest entry in the franchise is shaping up.
It's been 10 years. We've always had the power. Not anymore. All we have is each other.
With Call of Duty Ghosts, what we wanted to do was bring something new to the table that we hadn't explored before. One of the things, as we were discussing, what would this project be about, is a story of the underdog. It's a new world, both physically and emotionally. America is really hurt. We've gone through a cataclysmic event that has really changed us. And the Ghosts are a really special behind-the-scenes team that is going out doing different missions. And they are really what give the American people hope that, wow, there's still progress being made, there's still something that can happen. We might not be finished after all. And this is where the story begins. About 10 to 15 years later, we have the story of the player and his brother, and they've grown up in this world. They want to enlist in the military. As they start their journey, they come and they cross paths with the Ghost team, and that's really where the story starts. Call of Duty Ghost is coming out November 5th, 2013 for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC, and next-gen hardware as well.
What you just saw was Namco's Tekken Revolution. The popular fighting series will soon release a game that's free to play. And yes, 13-year-old me is super jealous of that fact. But the future is a bright place to be, unless you end up on the wrong side of the protagonist in this next game. Watch Dogs is a tech-fueled, open-world thriller from Ubisoft, in which your most powerful weapon is your smartphone.
Watch Dogs is a game that focuses a lot on hyperconnectivity. It kind of explored the idea of how human beings of today's world are relating to technology and how it impacts their lives. So you play the role of Aiden Pierce, a man who has a certain obsessions for surveillance, and as a player you're going to discover like the motive behind that obsession and explode it and blow it to an extent where you can actually monitor an entire city to do everything you want in the city. What we are trying to do is provide you with the fantasy of accessing everything around you. But it's almost like you can ask yourself, like, where do I want to be if I was invisible and listen to what people knows in that room? You know, what would I do if I could access everything around me? So the challenge was to make it simple, appealing, and also layered on top of driving, navigation, combat, shooting, all of those things, so that you always feel like you can express yourself in a new way. The Watch Dogs is going to come out on November 19 in North America on current gen, PC, and also next gen in the future.
One publisher that always makes a splash at E3 is Bethesda. The creators of Skyrim have no less than 3 big games to show off this year, including The Elder Scrolls Online, The Evil Within, and the return of a little franchise you might have heard of called Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein is sort of rooted in a classic game called Wolfenstein 3D, which was the game that launched the first-person genre. And we really try to honor that legacy and build a game that has that kind of mind-blowing factor that you had when you first played that game back in the day, but obviously for a modern audience. In terms of the gameplay, we try to incorporate sort of the evolution of the first-person shooter, all the things that are really great about modern shooters, but we're also merging that with all of the stuff that's been lost along the way, all the stuff that was really good about the first and earlier generations of shooters. It's set in this sort of alternate reality of the 1960s, where the Nazis have won the war and taken over the world. For the combat in Wolfenstein: The New Order, we are going really heavy on the action. Wolfenstein is all about big guns, so we have a lot of big guns, and we give the player access to really a really spectacular arsenal. Wolfenstein: The New Order is targeted for release at the end of this year. It's for PS3, 360, PC, and next generation consoles.
Speaking of classic franchises, if you had visited GameSpot.com last Thursday, you would have seen a brand new trailer for Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. The Castlevania series has been going strong for over 25 years. That's a quarter century. Here's Konami's Dave Cox with some insight on what makes this latest entry in the series so special.
At the end of Castlevania Lords of Shadow, we had the epilogue, and the epilogue presented a kind of vision of where we would take Castlevania if we were given the chance. In the epilogue, Zobek says to Dracula, it makes him an offer. You know, if you take this offer, I can end your immortality. And in this game, Dracula will accept that offer, and that's pretty much where we start in this game. With Lords of Shadow 2, we've introduced new weapons. In the previous game, you only had the whip, but this time you have 3 new weapons. You have the Void Sword, you have the Chaos Claws, and you have the Blood Whip. And each weapon provides strategic differences. So for example, the Void Sword, that allows you to steal life from your enemies. So every time you hit an enemy, you get a bit of life back. So the game's set in a modern setting. It's a modern setting that's imagined though. So it's not, it's not your typical Chicago or New York or that kind of modern city. It's a city that very much belongs in the Castlevania universe. There's a lot of Gothic architecture, there's stained glass windows. Just like one huge environment for the player to explore. So they can go to the castle whenever they want, they can go to the city whenever they want. And I think it has the spirit of the series, it has the heart and soul of Castlevania, but it's not afraid to, make its own mark.
And with that, GameSpot's E3 2013 preview comes to a close. E3 kicks off on Monday, June 10th, with big announcements from Sony, Microsoft, and more that you can watch live on GameSpot.com. If you want to see next-generation hardware, there's no better time. Then stay tuned on Tuesday, June 11th through Thursday, June 13th for our live stage show. We'll be bringing you more of the games you saw today, in addition to previously unannounced titles for the next Xbox, the PlayStation 4, and the Wii U. It's an exciting year for video gaming, and we hope you'll join us for the ride. I'm Chris Waters, and on behalf of everyone at GameSpot.com, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at E3.